We're back. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. He's Derrick. I'm Rob on this Tuesday. All right, let's talk some birds, Derrick. We like to do this every few months. We do our buy and sell. And we thought it'd be a fun time to do this. You came up with the concept yesterday, kind of revisit this. And it's always fun because it makes you really think about certain things. And then you forget some of the numbers that maybe some of these guys put up last year. And let's face it, really impressive across the board. I mean, 70 sacks as a team, 14 wins as a team, 2,000-yard receivers, 1,000-yard rusher. Jalen Hurts numbers were incredible. I mean, what did you have? Four or five guys in double-digit sacks. You had BG.
Yep.
You had Josh Sweat. You had Hargrave. You had Reddick. Did I miss anybody?
No, that's it.
Four guys in double-digit sacks. I mean, GJ had 6 interceptions. Like, I was going through some of this today, getting prepared for the buy or sell, and I'm like, oh my God, we may never see these kind of numbers collectively across the board again.
Exactly. It was a once-in-a-lifetime season. It was a perfect storm for them to roll and win that Super Bowl, and unfortunately, they ran into that one team, that one quarterback that just put the damper on their season. But they're in prime position again to do some great things in terms of depth, quality and talent, versatility. Health will be a big key, but they have the arsenal to get right back to that big show again and hopefully get their revenge on whoever they face from the AFC.
Yeah, well said. All right, so let's throw these let's throw these up there, and feel free to jump in on the chat as we do this, Derrick. So I'll fire some at you. You want to hit me with some, whatever you want to do. Okay. We will do. We'll hit it. Okay. All right, I have one for you. This is a little bit out of the box, so I may just hit you with this one first. All right, so over or buy or sell, that the Eagles will win one game this season against the Cowboys. You buying that? You selling that? It's been a tough road to hoe for the Eagles against Dallas.
Oh, I'm buying that. I think it'll be a season split.
Okay.
I think they'll both be very highly contested, hard-fought games. And I've said this time and time again, if you watch, say what you want to say about Dak Prescott, he could throw 20 interceptions and only throw 5 touchdowns. But yet when he plays the Eagles, he plays some of his best football. So I do believe that the Cowboys will win at home and the Eagles will win their game at home in that series. So I'm buying, yes, definitely there's going to be a split between those two.
Yeah, I'm buying it too. It's just eventually they got to figure this thing out. I mean, even if you look back at the one game last year, Jalen Hurts wasn't playing. And it wasn't all on Minshew, even though he had a couple turnovers. Some of those were on Quez Watkins. But the problem was they just couldn't get stops. The defense needs to figure out this Dallas offense, and we'll see what twist Sean Desai puts on this thing, his own twist and whatnot. So, all right. I think we're both on board there with the buying that one. Okay. You buying or selling 9 starts for Reed Blankenship?
You threw a curveball early. You playing dirty. You playing dirty early, man. I'm going to sell that one. I think Sidney Brown has the makeup and the talent to close the gap real quick on Reed Blankenship. And again, any comment I make about Blankenship is not an attack on him. It's not anything negative towards him. He played well. And he made mistakes, as all young players do. But I just think this Sidney Brown has better speed, better lateral pursuit. Sidney needs to work on his tackling. Reed is a better tackler right now. But I think it could be game 5 or 6 before all of a sudden we see a change in that position.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, this is really a wait-and-see proposition. With Reed and, really the safety position in general. There are some that think that Terrell Edmonds doesn't start the entire season. I think that's a really wide open to be determined position for this team. Way more than any other spot, I think, with that spot. So We'll see. You know, the one thing with Reed Blankenship is he doesn't play scared, which is impressive, but that only takes you so far. So we'll see what ends up happening there with that spot. All right, buy or sell, Derek. Eagles will have 1,000-yard rusher.
Ooh, ooh, Miles Sanders at 1,269 yards last year on 259 carries. I don't think, unless there's an injury, I don't think there's a back. When you look at the depth and the versatility of this backfield, I don't think there's one back that's going to get 259 carries. So with that said, I'm going to sell it. I think your lead back will have like 700-800 if they're healthy. Mm-hmm. I think you have a combination of the four probably rushing for close to 2,000 yards if they're healthy, or over 2,000 yards if they're healthy. But I'm going to sell. I do not believe they will have a single back that has 1,000 yards rushing this year.
Yeah, I'm selling that they'll have somebody over 1,000. I don't believe it either. I think here's why. One, I think it's going to be a matter of riding a hot hand in game or in the moment. Somebody has a great game week 3. Maybe they're getting the bulk of the carries week 4. The injury history is pretty rich, unfortunately, with both of those guys, meaning Swift and Rashad Penny. And you have 2 really quality guys behind them who could get their fair share of touches.
Absolutely.
So it might look a little different than usual, but you're still getting the same end result with, you know, a good amount of yards from your running backs. It just might be done by committee as opposed to just one guy you're riding. So not a bad thing, just going to look different, I would say.
See, JM says someone will establish themselves. It won't be committee. See, I have to disagree with that because you don't go out and bring in both DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny just to have one sit on the bench and wait until somebody gets hurt. There's a reason you have 4 different type of backs. We keep forgetting about Boston Scott because Boston Scott gets so few touches. We've seen what Gainwell can do, and we understand how much they like him because he got more notoriety in the playoffs and down the stretch than Miles Sanders did. So you elevate and you bring in both Penny and DeAndre Swift, and I think every game, every situation is going to be a different look in the backfield in terms of, whoever has a hot hand may play a couple of series, and then they're going to shift. And then they're going to shift again, and they're going to shift again. And depending on down and distance, they're going to shift again. So when you have that kind of depth at the backfield, you're not sitting one of them. You can't, because why would you bring them in and waste the money?
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
You could have just another position.
Well, Barb makes a good point too. Hurts with the amount of carries that he gets, whether he's keeping on an RPO or, some design stuff or whatever, that will cut in a little bit too. It didn't as much with Miles Sanders last year, but it may in this situation when there isn't the said feature back. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that could factor in this thing. It's still going to be a loaded, I think, backfield. You have a lot of depth. You have a lot of skill there. I mean, there's a lot of skill there for sure. So that'd be an interesting one for sure. All right. I want to jump to the defensive side with you on this one.
Oh, okay.
They had 70 sacks last year.
Yes.
Which was an Eagle record. And what was it? Second all time? Second or third all time?
Second, I believe.
Okay. So I'm going to knock off a few. You buying or selling 64 sacks for the Eagles this year? It's 6 less.
64?
Yeah, 6 less. It's still a very high number.
In terms of looking at their opponents this year, I'm selling that they get 64. I think they will be right around 55-ish, which is still an outstanding season. And in a lot of cases, 55 still ends up leading the NFL in sack totals.
Yeah.
That's not a knock of the Eagles defense. They're just playing a better collection of offenses this year.
Right.
And obviously, people, I think early on they may get a decent number of sacks because it's going to take a few games before people start to figure out exactly what Sean decides trying to do with his personnel. But I think when the dust settles and it all clears, I think about 55. So I'm going to sell 64. I don't think they hit 64.
Yeah, I don't either. I feel like that's a little bit ambitious. I think they're probably high 50s, low 60s.
Yeah.
You know, you lose Hargrave. That's 11. That's a lot taken out of that mix. I think you'll get a little combination from a few different guys. I still think Sweat's double digits. I still think that Hassan is double digits. How many are you going to get out of Fletcher? He gave you 7 last year. You know, yeah, I mean, it comes down to some of the older guys. Are you still getting Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox high level production, which will get you there close to it? That's the hard part. I don't know. It's hard to factor in a long season for them too, where they played, you know, until into February last year.
See, Brandon Graham's 35 now. Had a career year in sacks. He couldn't get past that threshold of getting a double digit in sacks. He had 9.5 was his best year.
Yeah, he finally got over. Yeah, he had 11 last year. Yep.
A little older, a little wiser, role player. Got to integrate younger players to get them acclimated. You don't have Hargrave anymore, who had 11 as well. I think Reddick's going to be right around 15, 16 again. Sweat should be right around 9, 10 again. So yeah, I think they'll be in the mid 50s in terms of QB sacks, which is still a dominant performance by a defense. If all the other phases of the defense gel and click, it's still a dominant performance by a defense.
It is, and even if you're getting around that number, you're still helping out your defensive backs in a big way if you're getting that kind of pressure. So that's. Mm-hmm. You know, it's still fine. You know, there's no issue with that whatsoever. Absolutely. All right. Buy or sell, Derek. The Eagles will have 3 receivers, meaning it doesn't have to be wideouts. It could be tight end. They will have 3 players go over 1,000 yards receiving.
Ooh.
Now, remember, if you look back at last season, when it comes to Dallas Goedert, you're talking about significant time missed.
He missed 5 games.
Yeah. So he gets injured. So he still ends up, even with that injury and that time missed, with 702 yards receiving.
Yep.
So you throw 5 more games in there.
Yep.
But he's had a hard time staying healthy for an entire season too. So you're buying or selling potentially 3,000-yard receivers.
I've got to sell that one.
Okay.
I think AJ and Devontae will both get over 1,000 yards again. I think if Dallas stays healthy and plays the full 17-game arsenal, I think his total will be high 800s to mid 900s in terms of receiving yards. He'll just miss that 1,000-yard threshold because this Eagles team, there are going to be some games where they're just going to close out the game and run the clock and stop passing the ball, which will also take away from passing opportunities. You also have to factor in Jalen Hurts taking off and running at times. To what degree, we don't know yet, but that's going to cut into receptions as well. I mean, the man has 702 yards and only 55 catches.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. You know, AJ had almost 1,500 yards on 88 catches.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae got his on 95 catches. They're going to throw the ball to the backs as well. DeAndre Swift is a good ball catcher. You know, Gainwell's a good pass catcher. So I don't think Goddard's going to hit that 1,000-yard mark. I don't. So I'm going to have to sell that one.
I don't either. It's simply because it's hard. There's only so many balls to go around in terms of the passing game. Hey, look, I mean, do I think Goddard has the talent? Sure. The other thing, he's got to show me that he can stay healthy for an entire season before I can buy into that.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right. Buy or sell Jalen Carter, 5 sacks.
Oh,
5.
Oh my goodness.
5 for the rookie.
I'm going to buy that one. I think if he's everything that we expect him to be, he's going to play a good portion of the downs. I think he's going to play more than Jordan Davis will in the trenches. And I think that he has the capability of easily achieving that number. So I'm going to buy, what was it, 5.5?
5, just 5. 5 straight up.
I'm buying that he will get at least 5 in his rookie campaign.
I think he's going to be, first of all, I think he's going to be that good. Secondly, I think he's going to be on the field that much. Like, I think that if you were breaking this thing down with your tackles, I think I've said this before, Derek. I'm on record as saying this. I think Jalen Carter gets the most snaps of anybody. And I think he becomes your go-to guy at that position.
Wow.
So if I had to rank it, I think he's going to be that good. I really do. I'm a big believer in his talent. And look, I'm going to assume he keeps his head screwed on straight and all those kind of things. But I'm going to buy. I'm buying. All right. How about this? Let's go Jalen Hurts. You buying or selling 3,800 yards in the air? So last year he had 37.
I'm buying it.
At 100. Yeah,
I'm buying it.
Okay.
I believe he will pass 4,000 yards passing this year.
Whoa. Okay.
I think with the way that they're structuring this thing, with the weapons that he has, and again, all factors coming into play if everybody's healthy, which they won't be, but if I think he could very easily pass 4,000 yards passing. He had 460 passing attempts, and he averaged 8 yards per passing completion last year. I think he could easily do that and then some. So I'm definitely buying. He can throw for minimum 3,800 yards this year.
Yeah, and you think about it, sort of the same logic that we talked about with Dallas Goedert. He missed a couple of games, Jalen did. And even that last game when he came back and played against the Giants, he wasn't 100%. And they weren't really trying to put him in any kind of position to make plays where he was throwing the ball down the field. Like I don't think there's any question he can get 100 more. And I don't have any question that he's just going to get better. I think he'll come in as an improving player. I think that's the case for a lot of Eagles. I think he's going to be better. I think Devontae Smith is going to be better. I think A.J. Brown could be better.
Yeah.
Landon Dickerson could be better. So I think there's a lot of guys who are improving as opposed to just sort of, peaking and heading the other direction or just staying the same. So I think he will get better. I get this one.
I got one for you.
Yeah, fire away, please.
All right. Staying with Jalen Hurts. He had 165 carries last year. Are you buying or selling that he will have at least 160 carries this season?
I am selling. I think he'll have less than that. I think he's in the 145 to 148 range. Like he goes down a little bit, which is good. That'll increase it probably his passes, or it might increase a couple of incompletions, which is fine. Live to see another day. I'm selling. How about you?
Yeah, I'm selling it. When you have the backfield that they have right now, there's no need for them to call that many running plays for your quarterback. A Boston Scott, I honestly believe if Boston Scott carried the ball at least 17 times a game, Boston Scott would be 1,000-yard rusher behind that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
That's how deep the talent pool is. And I do believe they went out and got both Swift and Penny to help reduce the wear and tear in Jalen having to take off and run the football. So I'm thinking he might be around 125, 130 in terms of carries. They're still going to call running plays for him, but I think they'll minimize that now because they're so deep in the backfield. Why put your quarterback in that situation when you got a power back, you have speed backs, you got Boston Scott, who's a combination of the two, power and speed. Mm-hmm. There's no need for your quarterback to take that many unnecessary hits. And if I go back to last season, even though he missed 2 games and it didn't help them in terms of getting to a Super Bowl, do I want to put him in unnecessary harm's way again?
Yeah.
No. Injuries that happen to quarterbacks a lot of times are fluke injuries, whether it's a shoulder, a broken finger, hitting it on somebody's helmet, twisting and turning on a sack the wrong way. You got a knee, you got an ankle that could flare up. So I think to alleviate the potential of him taking unnecessary hits, with that kind of backfield they have right now, I'm going to sell that he's going to get close to 160 carries.
Okay. All right. I buy. I like it. I like this one. Rashad Penny.
Oh,
14 games played.
Oh, jeez.
Are you buying or selling? Now, this isn't starts. This is just he's getting carries. He's got whatever. He's active. He's playing in at least 14 games of 17. Yeah, I know. This is a tough one.
You're killing me.
With this guy's history, this is tough.
The only time he's played 14 games in his entire career is his rookie season of 2018. Yep. He played exactly 14 games. Mm-hmm. Every other season, he's played 10, 3, 10, and 5. Mm-hmm. Based on just his history, I'm selling that he makes it to 14 games. I'm selling.
Yeah, I don't know how you sit here and buy that. I hope we're wrong. I hope we're looking back like, man, it's amazing. This guy, first time career, so healthy. Blah 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 blah. I think it's why you hedge your bets a little bit and you get Swift too, because you really don't fully trust Penny, and frankly, you don't trust Swift. You know, it's vice versa. And it's also why you keep around very smartly Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, but I can't buy it, man. See, there's a reason why you got him for next to nothing, even though the guy averages his yards per carry average for his career is awesome.
It's 5.7.
Yeah, he can't stay healthy.
See, Tone, our producer says he's selling. He'll play 13, not 14.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he very well could. But you know, I think Adam makes an interesting point. Would love to see him get about 10 carries per game to stay healthy. That could do it if it's not a crazy heavy workload. But problem is, you just never know on any individual play. Could be his second carry, could be his 15th carry. It's something fluky could happen, and the guy ends up getting hurt. All right, I will hit you with this one. NFC East gets 3 teams again in the postseason. Buy it, sell it.
As much as I hate to say it, I believe Dallas is going to make the playoffs again. Brian Daboll's got something going there in the Giants. So I'm going to – wow, that's a tough one. Wait, I got to think this one thoroughly. Let's see here. Let's see. Does Minnesota make the playoffs? I don't know. It could be.
I think they do. I think Minnesota gets in. Yeah.
So if you get 3 from the East, you get Minnesota and Detroit from the North. That's 5. A winner from the South is 6th. What is it, 8 teams in the playoffs now?
Yes.
And 2 from the West. I'm going to have to buy that one. I believe the NFC East will get 3 more teams in based on, I think Green Bay is going to struggle. Chicago's getting better, but I don't think they're quite there yet. I think the NFC South will just get their traditional division winner in, although depending on what happens in Atlanta, we could be looking at New Orleans and Carolina, Atlanta and New Orleans down there. And then out west, I think it's a 2-horse race between Seattle and the 49ers. I'm going to buy. I'm buying the NFC East gets 3 in.
I'm buying. I think Minnesota is kind of a swing team, but I think they get in. I think Detroit gets in. I don't think Green Bay does. I think 1 team comes out of the South, and I think 2 come out of the – so if two come out of the West, 1 South, 2 North, 3 East. Make sense? That's getting you to 8.
Yep.
The X Factor teams would – if somehow 2 teams came out of the South, I have a hard time believing that. If Green Bay, if Jordan Love's the real deal, maybe, maybe Green Bay. I really don't see the Rams or the Cardinals in the West. The other thing is does Seattle continue to grow here? Do they get better? Were they just sort of a surprise team last year that snuck up on some people? So even if they lose one out of the West, and the Vikings get in or somebody else gets in, then you're still getting 3. I think the NFC East is the cream of the crop in totality, because I think Washington might be in some conversations there, depending on the kind of quarterback play they get, but getting Bieniemy in there helps them with that. And they have some parts there. Washington is not a team that lacks talent. They have some talent on that roster.
They just don't have a quarterback.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's the biggest position, no doubt. But still, I mean, I'm not saying you're getting 4 out of the East. I'm just telling you the East is by far the best division in that conference. And then I think we talked about this before. I think if you go over the other side, AFC East is pretty good, all things considered.
West, it's 7 teams that get in, not 8. 7.
Oh, we're 1 off. All right, so let's look at it this way. Then I think the X factor here is Seattle and either Detroit or Minnesota, right? I think they're the X factors. 1 comes out of the South. If you get 3 out of the East, then you're starting to limit yourself a little bit here in terms of what teams get in. But it happened last year.
See, say what you want to say about Minnesota, because I do believe Detroit's going to be an interesting team to watch all year. Minnesota's offense is going to be explosive. That's a given.
Yes.
I think the defense is in much better hands now with Brian Flores, and that'll help them get over the top. So that's a push. So let's see, 3 from the East, 2 from
Brian,
the
4
North.
Division 3 wild card. Brian, you're right. Thank you.
Okay. That means one gets in from the South and only 1 from the West,
or Central or North. I mean, yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah. Wow. So you could get 3 from the East, 2.
Well, so Derek, last year, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants.
Yep.
Vikings, Bucks, Niners, Seahawks.
Yep.
So that's what it was last year. There's only one team in the North.
That means if the North gets 2 in, one team from the West is going to get bumped,
or one team from the East, yeah.
Or one team from the East will get bumped.
Yeah.
I like the 3 teams in the East. I like the Giants, Cowboys, and the Eagles in the East to get in. I do. I think Daboll's team is going to be better this year. In his second year, they're going to be even more versatile as Brian Daboll opens that playbook up even more for Daniel Jones. I'm going to stick to what I said. I'm buying the East gets 3 in. I'm going to stick with that.
Okay. All right, buy or sell. Jordan Davis gets at least 51% of the snaps on the defensive side.
I'm selling that. I'm selling it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Jalen Carter will eat up too much playing time for him to get 51%. I think Jordan Davis, who played roughly 21, 22% last year, will elevate that to maybe in the 30s. But I don't think he gets anywhere close to 51%. The only way he gets to 51% is if there's a multitude of injuries along that defensive front. So no, I think he is a vital part of that defensive scheme, but I don't think he's an every down D lineman. I think he's a down and situation type guy. So I'm going to say he'll increase his playing time significantly, but not even close to 51%.
Real? What do you think? Like 30,
33, 34 maybe.
Okay.
Because you got to remember also, you got Milton Williams in there. You have Tuipulotu in there.
Yeah. Fletcher.
You got Fletcher. You ain't paying him $10 million to sit on the bench.
Jalen Carter.
You draft Jalen Carter as high as you did to sit him on the bench. So I don't think he gets anywhere close to 51%.
That's the tough thing, I think, for Eagles fans. I don't. Let me put it this way: if Fletcher Cox is playing really well and Jalen Carter is crushing it, Milton Williams is doing a really nice job, then I don't think people get too upset. However, if they're getting run on up the middle or they're having some problems in that middle part of the line,
right,
and Davis isn't playing a ton, then you're going to start to hear the angry people
chirping. Yep.
Yeah.
Chirping.
Like, what is this guy? What did you get him for? Why did you trade up to take him in the draft last year? Could have gotten X, Y, or Z. That's where I think and I will say this: Jordan Davis is saying all the right things. He is. He's basically saying, look, I know what they want from me. I know what to expect. My conditioning's where it needs to be. I feel great going into this year. Okay. Look, we'll see. We'll see. I think there are people that are a little bit too down on him from last year. And I don't think that's fair either. I thought he had an okay year. He got set back when that high ankle hit him. I think that set him back.
Yeah, I do too.
For a guy that big.
Our producer Tone seems to think that Jordan Davis will play what did he say? 45%. I think that's too high. Yeah. I think 45 for him is too high. Even if he gets his weight down and controls it, you moved up to take Jalen Carter. You want him on the field, not the bench.
Yeah.
You think that this young man has special attributes to not only hold his own when he hits the gap, but to push the pocket, to be to wreak havoc, You want him on the field to be a disruptive force. Here's a young man who could be a serious rookie of the year candidate for defense. If that happens, and you have the other depth in the rotation, Jordan Davis doesn't come close to 45%, let alone 51% of the snaps. Mm-hmm. So that's why I can't see that happening in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, I hear you. By the way, Adam, we will address the Chris Sims, rankings in a little bit, so we'll do that as well. All right, let's keep it rolling here. We'll continue with the buy sell, and we will get into the Chris Sims thing and where in fact he has Jalen Hurts and who's around him, who's in front of him at least. So we'll do all that. We'll keep the Eagles talk going. 1:30, Alex Coffey. We'll talk some Phillies with her. NFL segment at 2:00, but we keep it rolling with the Eagles when we come back. So don't go anywhere. He's Derrick Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube network on this Tuesday. All right, let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be a very critical thing. That's for sure. And I can tell you from personal experience, it was a challenge for a while to find that right person here. But whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you have a small business, you're trying to get the employee benefits off the ground, that's yet another resource that Jim can assist you with. I know I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim Murray, and I couldn't be any happier. So will you. Give him a call. Just pick his brain a little bit. 610-996-4751. 610-996-4751. You can also reach out via email. Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.